Coin Wars. Book 1. The SEC had resorted to compromise. I found that throughout Italy credit was becoming all grades to be present, and he addressed the men of the 13th Legion as follows.
I am Giacomo. This is a great initiative. I've never been in something lasting 6 hours with so many people, so very happy to be here. So, first of all, before somebody like Bruce Fenton reconnects again and call me a Venezuelan socialist, I want to specify that I don't think this SEC should even exist. So I am an anarchist. I don't believe in regulators. But let me first analyze what the SEC guys said from a point of view of the technical truth. So let's assume for a minute that we are not commenting a sentence, a statement by somebody that will enforce or not, but just analyze 1 second statement itself. So what Jason just repeated is actually provably and clearly, for everybody that has any understanding in the field, false. Is that what bothers me most? It's not that the SEC is not going to put Vitalik Buterin in jail. I'm happy for that. I mean, I'm happy for Buterin. The thing that bothers me is that the reason that the SEC is not going to apply the regulatory framework that is more fit for Ethereum is based on a false technical facts. Ethereum launched in a centralized way with the central counterparty selling Ether in exchange for Bitcoin. It was developed in a centralized way. It was continued and promoted with marketing from a centralized counterparty. First, it was a company, then it was a foundation, but it was still the same people. And over time, Ethereum only went more and more centralized from any possible metric and point of view. Basically, what you have is that if at the beginning of Ethereum, the possibility to validate the transaction of the network was something that somebody could do at his home, now, as many people already showed and demonstrated, you cannot validate an Ethereum transaction if you are not basically the Ethereum Foundation, because nobody, literally, not even BitGo, is running and independently validating full node, because that's just impossible. So we have full centralization from a technical validation point of view. Furthermore, we have the proof that before the DAO bailout, we could we were told by the website of Ethereum that that was a platform for unstoppable application. We were told by the terms of service of the DAO that code was low, and when somebody was coding something, that was going on in a decentralized way. Well, what happened with the DAO fuck up was Vitalik Buterin joining a chat with exchanges and asking, please, guy, can you stop trading? And when somebody say yes, somebody say fuck you, but then he insisted in stopping the trading from a centralized point of view. And then he organized over several months a technical modification of the platform against part of the community of the users of the platform in order to bail out some insiders that were financially damaged by the stupid investment that they did over the DAO that featured Vitalik Buterin as an advisor. So Vitalik Buterin was advising as a good thing the DAO code. The DAO code was shit. Friends of Vitalik and Vitalik himself lose money, and they proved complete control over the network, not just because he stopped the trading, but even before he organized and launched a successful hard fork, and not just creating another split, but creating another split and then managing to convince all the exchanges to call his split, the split about the bailout of friends, as Ethereum. And the original chain was called Ethereum Classing and kept alive basically because of trolling of some Bitcoiners. I don't know why it even exists. Maybe Barry Seibert and a few others believe in it. But the point is that the original chain was even strapped by this name and logo and brand. And the new chain, centrally defined by the Ethereum Foundation in order to bail out insiders of the Ethereum Foundation, was the new chain. So this is a centralization process. Furthermore, Vitalik and other people inside the Ethereum community stated several times that they are going to do that more and again. When somebody pointed out that some security flaws of proof of stake, the answer of Vitalik was, if a majority of malicious actors will try to attack this insecurity, we will just fork it off. So even if you talk to any single Ethereum investor that is trying to pretend to understand the technology, and you say something like, Ethereum cannot scale. You see, you cannot even synchronize your node. And he will not answer, oh, but it's decentralized, so I don't know, something will happen. He will answer, yeah, but Vitalik in his blog say that he's going to change the proof of work into proof of stake, and he's going to apply sharding. So basically, the expectation of value for the investor in Ether are more and more every day, more than in the past, more than in 2015, based on the trust that the centralized counterparty will control and modify and, on their point of view, improve the network. So my point is not really the SEC should regulate them, but the SEC created a huge educational emergency, because the reason they're not going to regulate that, which I'm happy, I think they shouldn't regulate anyone, but the reason is based on a technical lie that they spread and they somehow validated in front of many people. It's like you say, Jason, that exchanges for people that is coming from the old financial world, when the exchanges will just list a coin, for the public, it will be something like if they are validating the coin. Of course, it's not. They're just going to make money. But for the public, it is like they're going to validate. Well, for the same people, this statement from the SEC is like the SEC telling people, trust us. This coin is decentralized and not controlled by a single party. This statement is false, and many people will invest in Ethereum based on this technical lie, which is what bothers me mostly. So basically, I am an ICO scammer. I want to learn something from this statement, and I learn basically three things. First, I have to live long enough to be considered too big to fail. Second, I have to be completely centralized, and that's okay, because the SEC told me that's okay. But I have to lie to the public about my decentralization. I have to pretend and to build decentralization circus. So the way I have to behave in order to not comply with regulatory framework of security is to create and leverage confusion into my investor about my technology and about the decision-making process inside my security. So this decision not maybe as intention, but as consequences about game theory, about public choice, about behavioral, call it what you want. But the consequences of this decision is that it's creating an incentive for ICO salesmen to confuse and obfuscate with text-sounding blabbering what is really going on about the decision-making. So it's the opposite of clarity. It's like if you are too clear, like many of the Ethereum competitors are in a way, the new scam platform, are in a way a little bit more honest than Ethereum, because they say, we want to go faster, we want to be more scalable. So we're basically substituting the proof of work with our proof of authority, which is a very convoluted way to say we are centralizing. But at least it is a way to say we are centralizing. So these new ICOs are admitting they are centralizing. What the SEC is saying is that there are incentives in order to pretend and to build a decentralization circus based out of nothing. And the third incentive is also money. So what happened before the SEC was that an organized effort to lobby the SEC about this decision was put in place by people with financial interest on this non-security. So people that was interested in this non-security started to lobby the SEC with a lot of money and with closed door meetings and stuff like that. So if I am an ICO scammer, my third conclusion is that I have to try to live long enough. I have to pretend to be decentralized with obfuscation and ambiguity in my pseudo-technical words. And then also I have to pay a lot of money or lobby, just like the traditional market. But what really pisses me off is that as an anarchist, I wouldn't even want to discuss about the SEC decision. For me, education would be, I love Bitcoin, but I would love the SEC calling Bitcoin a security, a regulated money, or something like drugs. I don't care, because the point was that before, at the beginning, we had e-gold. E-gold was something good, but was easily censored by the government because it was centralized. Then it came Bitcoin, which was impossible to shut down. And now what is happening is that based on complex, ignorant statements, the regulator are deluding a lot of people that you can get back to the e-gold model. You can forget pseudonymity. You can forget decentralized software project. You can just go back to a patent, a marketing team, and do everything centralized, which is good, except for the fact that when most of the market will move from Bitcoin to centralized solution, then the regulator will be able to strike back again. Because if we learn something about e-gold, is that the regulator is not bound by consistency. Sorry for the very long run.